Hi, I'm Casey with Keepin and YYC. Today I'm joined by Frank Ossm of 3D Printed Homes. How are you today?
I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm going to jump right into the questions and just have you tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, I realized a few years ago, back in about 2017, that 3D printing wasn't only really cool for modelers and things like that, just, toys, useful things around the house. Um, about 2016 or 2018 or so, you started looking online and on YouTube, and you see companies trying to 3D print walls and houses. They're looking at building houses, and about the same time, you start realizing, well, this whole country and the world is having this housing crisis. We can't build houses fast enough to deal with, emergency situations around the world, disaster relief. We have our veterans, people that went to war for us, that can't find a place to live because they can't afford it. And if we build them homes, we can't do it fast enough. And then if we do that, it still costs a whole bunch of money to do it. You've got a lot of people that work their butts off every day, and they come home with $2,000 a month. And that's not even nearly enough to pay rent. Never mind, go buy yourself a home for you and your family. And 3D printing a house and 3D printing construction really seems to answer a lot of those questions, because you can 3D print, well, the numbers that are coming out now, you can 3D print a house for around 30 to 50% less cost than traditional brick and mortar.
Wow.
We're seeing materials come out that have engineered properties for heat retention, strength, that have engineered chemical properties for printing in arid, warm climates. Our company is specifically going to gear towards printing in northern climates. We want to print on permafrost and go print whole villages up in the Northwest Territories, things like that. So, and we're one of the many companies. There are about somewhere between 65 and maybe more now companies worldwide that are working on some form of 3D printing. And then a handful are actually have machines up and going. And then there's a few, there's Apicore, Cybe, Cobod, Icon. These companies specifically are actually taking contracts and building actual houses that people are actually going to live in. It takes a really quick Google search, 3D printed homes. If you don't come up with my website very first, then go on and look for some of the videos. It's fascinating to see the different solutions to the same problem. And this is what I really love about it. It's the same solution, the different solutions to the same problem. And people go, well, aren't you afraid of competition? And it's like, no, I relish the competition. We're going to come up with a dozen or more solutions to this problem. And if we all get to do it, then the problem gets solved. And that's really what it's about. It's not about going out there with a new industry. It's about this huge problem that's been a problem for decades. And we have a chance to solve this with a new industry and new technology. And that's what new technology is all about, solving problems. Right?
Yeah. And it's a very exciting technology. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
So then I guess the second question is, what are you guys doing right now to kind of adapt in this environment?
So pre-COVID, we were really, we were going to SATE. We were just in the middle of our first initial discussions with them about having them help us develop that material that I was talking about. COVID came along and it went down to now we have to have online meetings where we're just really trying to come up with strategy. How do we move forward with physical testing in a world where we need to be socially distant? So that's kind of what's going on with SATE. We haven't really switched gears so much as we're looking for different ways to do what we wanted to do to begin with.
Yeah.
And testing is a huge part of what we're doing right now, because we know that we can just go buy a machine, bring it back to Canada, throw their mortar and mix in it, and start printing homes. It's obviously not that easy, but really we could do that. But the materials is probably 75 or 80% of the whole challenge. You can squirt anything out of a nozzle, but it needs to do a lot of different things while it's working. And then it needs to do a whole lot of different things when it's dried and it's doing something else. A brick is a brick. When you put it on the ground, it was a brick before and it's a brick after. It doesn't have any other job than to hold itself together. But a mortar mix that we're talking about has to be engineered to be mixable, extrudable, And then it has to be hard enough to support its own weight within about a 10-minute period.
Wow.
So there's a lot that goes into that material. So it's a huge part of what we're doing. And it's kind of, we're right in the middle of that right now. We're answering a lot of the questions there. And so to deal with this COVID thing, we have an advocate in Ottawa who is talking to the government and who's trying to look at some of the policies that were either getting in our way or policies that get in the way of small business and small technology businesses really being the solution to the economy then growing in a different way. So are we going to rely on the old infrastructure to just sort of wait and hold and boost it up? Or are we going to take this opportunity to take these new technologies and boost them up instead? But the way we're dealing with it is really, we're looking at the policies. We're looking at, okay, well, what were the roadblocks before to this sort of technology? How has this environment we're in now changing how we look at that? So it's a change in how we think about things and how we want to get into the future. Do we want to go into the future by band-aiding these solutions with like subsidized housing and things like that? Or do we want to go into the future with a real solution to the problem? And that's what we're trying to do. So we're looking at the policies that'll allow us to do that. But my job is just sit here and draw and design houses. Those guys are working really hard at looking at those policies. And then it's going to help not just our company, but any other companies that are small that can't quite get access to these grants, or can't quite get access to the research personnel and to the information that they need, just because they're not big enough. You know, for example, there's a grant where you can get $3 million from the government, but you have to put in $1 million yourself.
Oh.
So those are the sorts of things, without speaking too much to it so I don't get anything wrong, those are the sorts of things we're trying to bring down. We're saying, okay, well, we need access to funds like this for starting these things up, because what we're doing is going to help a lot of people. We're going to bring a new industry, therefore new jobs. We're going to create homes for people. We're going to do a lot of good things with this. So, you know, the money should be there for us. But now, oh, well, the money's there, but you need to give us $3 million before you can get your $10 million. And say, well, if I had $3 million, I probably wouldn't need your $10 million. So that's the sorts of things we're trying to do with that, because we can't be out on the ground right now looking at things. Even our team can't be together right now to look at things. Usually I've had a meeting with my CEO once a week and I bring a model, we look at it, we say, okay, well, how do we solve this for accessibility? You know, can anybody, whether they're in a wheelchair, crutches, or 8 feet tall, can they get in this tiny home and then live peacefully?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's hard to answer to those challenges without being able to get together. So, of course, like anybody else, we're using Zoom and we're using online meetings for that.
Awesome. Well, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of work. You guys are trailblazing in a brand new technology. So you're laying the groundwork for so many people to come after you.
We're not really starting this.
No.
It's only new to almost everybody. But back in the 90s, there were companies that were realizing that, hey, I'm printing my architectural models and with my 3D desktop printer that cost me $8,000 back in the 90s. You know, and I'm printing and they're looking at these gantry systems that could be easily scaled up. Bigger everything does the same thing. There's no real difference in the math when you scale these things up. You could literally, if you had the materials that could withstand the weights, you could literally scale these things up to the size of an apartment building and print an apartment building with a gantry printer.
Yeah.
Not something we would do, but that's a possibility. And that's what they were seeing in the 90s. They're going, hey, I'm printing these little buildings on my desktop. Like, why can't I just make this really, really big and do the same thing on the ground? So they did. And then back in 2014, Apicor printed in Russia, of all places, printed a little round house. It wasn't even 400 square feet. They printed it in less than 24 hours, finished, painted. They put a cloth roof on it. I'd call that cheating, but there was a roof on it. They put a little fridge, a little stove, counters. They had a TV in there, a couch, it was like a little tiny home that was 3D printed. And it was like from nothing to a livable abode in less than 48 hours.
That's
where
amazing.
I could go in there, sleep, eat, watch TV, good to go.
That's amazing.
And then there's a lot of people that are going to be out of jobs too, with the construction industry the way it is. Now, housing is going to decline. You're going to have deflation everywhere. And a new industry like ours is a place where somebody out of work in construction who maybe doesn't have the exceptional skills required to build a home has enough skills to take care of a job site and monitor a machine.
Yeah.
You don't have to dig holes. You don't have to pour concrete. You don't have to know how to measure anything. You just got to be a good hard worker and be diligent and responsible. And a lot of people like that around. So, and they're all going to be out of work.
Yeah.
You know, so we're poised to sort of not, people say, well, you're going to take jobs away. Well, no, we're going to provide jobs now for the people that can't seem to quite get into that part, into the other part of construction. We're going to take all the stragglers and we're going to make them specialized. They're going to turn into specialized people, whereas before they were not.
Yeah. Create jobs. Of course, it's going to be a huge industry, I imagine. So it would be creating jobs, different types of jobs.
We're lucky that we have the opportunity to sort of create the material, though, that's going to be used in Canadian and northern markets, I think. We'd really like to make that proprietary and then be able to sell this material to other 3D companies who maybe they want to start a 3D, but they don't want to go through all the research and create the material. Well, 3D PHC has a great material. It's already approved for code. It's already approved to print on the Tundra and all this great stuff. Let's just buy that.
Yeah.
You know, so we would offer that for sale.
Yeah. Easier for them not to have to put all that money and time into the work as well. That's a really good idea.
We hope. Yeah.
So my third question is, what can people in general just do to support local businesses right now?
You know, the answer to that should be the same for everybody. Find, if you want something, find the local business that does it and just get it from them. Even if you got to pay $5 more, $10 more, I don't know what you're buying. It could be $1,000 more, who knows? But, you know, buy it from them. If you can afford it, then buy it from them.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it, then don't.
Yes. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair because people spend out of their means.
I lived in a trailer for the last year before I moved to this place. I lived in a 14 by 10 foot trailer.
Yeah.
Talk about tiny living. And, you know, realized how little you really, really need.
Yeah.
You know?
My last place was 500 square feet before this, and I thrived. I enjoyed my space. I just got rid of a lot of stuff. So
you do, and that's where the tiny home movement I really like about it is that, and I really want to sort of sell to that group of people. These are people that don't want to live lives inside their houses. These are people that want to live life outside their houses. So better to have a big lot in a small house than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, just build the house for what you need. You need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to hang out when it's stormy outside.
Yeah.
Other than that, make your outside space amazing. If you didn't have to put an extra 500 square feet on your house, how much money did you save doing that? That's a lot of money for Zengard.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of money for the stuff that you love and the stuff that's going to make you feel good and just the space. And that's why these houses behind me I really liked a lot, was because that's kind of the environment I want to see our houses, even within the city, you know, where our lots are separated by trees, not fences. We want to really strengthen our communities, you know, do these sorts of communities where you've got these environments where they're separated enough that you can have your privacy, but at the same time, it's not one jail cell next to another.
Yeah.
That's how I see the way they're building houses now. On my block, every house is exactly the same. Every fifth house is red. And that wasn't the choice of the homeowners. They didn't get to choose what color their house was here. This makes me really sad. I almost feel like crying when I notice this in Calgary or anywhere, where you go and buy a house for $315,000 and it's attached to two other houses and you didn't even get to choose the color. It makes me really sad. And you know, and it's the community association that gets to choose the color and what you have on your lawn and the fence. And you know, I really want to change those sorts of policies too, because it's first world problems, greatest example. You know, my neighbor 3 houses down doesn't like that I painted my fence white. So he's got to make the homeowners association say, okay, nobody's allowed to paint their fences white in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
It happens. And we have to change how we look at it. Just like SpaceX, they changed how NASA looked at going into space.
Yeah.
Now NASA is looking at it as a commercial thing rather than an exploratory thing. And it took SpaceX to do that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to be part of that with the 3D printing industry, is say, let's not just change the industry, but let's change how we really look at what we're doing with it. Are we just building houses for profit? Or are we going to do it in a way that not only helps the environment, it helps people own houses, it helps deal with the housing crisis, it helps our veterans, and can go on and on and on. And it does all that at once. It doesn't just have to do one thing, like one community for veterans, one community for low income, one community for apartment buildings. You know, these sorts of things really solve all those problems at once with the same building, with a single building. And when you can design any way you want, these circles behind me are very plain and boring considering what you really could do, you know. And even interiors, you can imagine not a single flat wall where you didn't want one. It's all big curves and vaults, and you know, the pillars inside your house are shaped in artistic ways. You know, a pillar in your house going from your bedroom to your living room might be just as much of a statue as any sculpture you might see in a museum.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to sculpt it. It was printed into the building. You know, because 3D printing is so cheap now, maybe I can 3D print a house for my grandparents on our back 40. This is a very specific situation, but you never know.
Yeah.
And, you know, they love their grandkids, big family. This is a very, very family-oriented people, you know. And so when we decided to design their building, we designed a very flat back wall that we could actually print an image of their grandkids in it, so that when the sun rises in the east in the morning, it comes up to the wall and shines. And when they wake up for their coffee in the morning, there's a picture of their grandkids shining through the wall.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful.
Wouldn't it be? I don't know how. I know that it's possible. I don't know how we're going to accomplish it. I just know that it's going to happen one day.
You're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love that answer. My final question for you is just, do you have any tips and tricks you can give in relation to your area of expertise?
We really want to look at how is the world changing from COVID, and it's really got to be centered on that. How do we want the world to change from COVID to be a better place? We have this opportunity where people are really watching and paying attention, and there's a big group of people out there that really want it to be different, but they just need somewhere to sort of put their energies to. And these are the sorts of things you want to put your energies to. If you can start a company that builds, you know, container houses, you know, sea cans are a great solution to the housing crisis. If you got a lot of money to throw at something, then throw it at it. Throw it at one of these projects, any one of these projects. Home for Heroes is a great place to throw money at if you really want to help these things go on. For me, it's all about, let's make this world a better place. Let's take this opportunity to make the world a better place through the things that we can do. Really, it is all about hard work. You can do a lot in this world with hard work. It was true back in the day, and it's true now. You can throw money at it, or you can do it with hard work. And I think you get a better result with hard work.
Probably something you're a little more prideful of anyway.
Absolutely.
So that's actually all the questions I have for you. We do kind of like to have you finish the interview for us, though, by just like looking into your camera.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Frank from 3D Printed Homes Corporation. Keep it local, keep it YYC.